Hello and welcome back for my second part of my three-part walkthrough of Eduardo Tarilonte's Nada, available at Best Service. And you know what? Pause the video for a minute. Go over to Best Service and check it out for yourself. You can watch the rest of this video while you're downloading it, because I will say, because this library is so vast, because there's so much in it, there is a lot of stuff to download for Nada. It's big files, so it's going to take you a little bit of time. You're going to need one of those RAR decompressors to unpack it. But I guarantee you it is well worth the wait. If you watch the first video, you will already know that. And that will be even more reinforced in this second video here as we get into the second section of sounds for Nada, which is the meditation pads. Now, here's the thing. It's got to be tough as a library creator to really kind of name things in a way that draws the attention of the user to check out the sound, but also is memorable enough so that when you are like, what was that one sound I was listening to that I really liked, to just remember what it was called and go back to it. So I like the fact that he's named them, so it's not like, you know, sound 1, sound 1B, sound 1C, sound 1D. I hate when libraries do that because I have no point of reference to that. At least with this, Eduardo gives us the opportunity to remember that, hey, I know it was one of the frozen drop sounds. Now, which one was it? You know, it gives you kind of a reference point instead of having to go through all these sounds to figure out what the hell it was that you're trying to remember, which by the time that you've heard 3 or 4 sounds, you're going to forget anyway. So interestingly, one of the very first songs I ever wrote was called Crystal Fantasy. And so let's just start with Crystal Fantasy. That seems, you know, it's the first one available, and we'll just pick the first one. Now, just off the top of my head, I'm imagining glasses, like wine glasses, or maybe it's a crystal flute or something like that, but it's going to have just that sort of, sharper sound to it, is just what I would think by that name. Let's see how right I am, and I actually have no idea. So everything you heard, I did not play that. A lot of that is just on the algorithm. So I'll just hit a middle C. So literally all I did there was hold a middle C. Everything else that played was done as part of the algorithm. So let's see what happens, how it sounds if I try to harmonize that. So it's real interesting results depending on what you hit. So be very aware, and this is one of the things that kind of holds me back from buying local vocal libraries a lot of times, is because I don't know how those algorithms are going to play. I don't know what notes they're going to hit, so I don't know if it's always going to be in harmony or dissonant with whatever I'm trying to write. But here you actually can see the notes playing out. Instead of it just being a sound that triggers, he's actually got the visual representation on the keyboard. So you can watch that, see what notes it's playing, and then decide, how you want to work that. But that's a very important component for me. Instead of me trying to figure out which note every one of those notes was, it actually just shows them to me right on the screen. It can be a very visual thing, and that makes it a lot easier. So a fan of that for sure. And let's try, deep peace sounds really nice. That just seems like a beautiful place to live in. Let's pick just in the middle. We'll pick 6. beautiful combination of piano and pad there. Again, you have the controls. You can you can manipulate it any way you want. If you wanted the piano, to be maybe, let's say, more towards the right ear, and then maybe the pad more to the left. So you get the idea of what you can do with that. I love just love the control. If I sound like a broken record, it's just because those are the best words I can really find to describe some of this stuff. Now, one that you wouldn't expect it to be would be the sound of emptiness, because that sounds a little cold and lonely. But let's see what it actually is. Okay, so it was a little cold and empty, and just fades into oblivion. So you could blend a lot. You could use that for, if you have a generally happy song, but you have a moment where the person that is the subject of the song is just kind of going through a tough moment. You could switch over to that sound very easily. Or you could just do, a dystopian landscape. You can do all kinds of stuff with a sound like that. And also, another suggestion I have, especially for a library like this, and really with all libraries, is don't think of the sound that you hear as doing what the sound does. Now, that may sound strange, but a lot of times you'll use sounds just to blend, to thicken, and certain aspects of those sounds that you may not like individually when you listen to them actually work beautiful in if you use them for blending. So that's one thing that I would keep in mind as you're listening through the sounds, auditioning sounds for a piece that you're doing. You can lower the volume, you can pan it, you can blend it, and not have it be a lead instrument. So if there are some things that maybe don't sound good to your ear for that piece on their own, you might be able to use them in blending. So let's go to Frozen Drops. That just sounds like an interesting one. Well, I mean, they all do, but that sounds interesting at the moment. Let's hear what that sounds like. They're going to blend so beautifully when you have decay like that. So important. Could even begin to tell you the value that you're getting with that alone. Let's try Peace of Mind. That sounds like a nice thing to have, doesn't it? Let's just try the first one on the list there. Just gorgeous, crystal clear, yet beautiful ambience at the same time. It's almost like the sharpness and the clarity does not take away from just the beauty and that of it all. I love it. Let's give Profound Beauty a whirl. Oh, come on. That would be perfect in like a movie soundtrack. Just so many uses for this library. And again, that's only one articulation. That's not with me changing any of the massive amount of settings that you have at your disposal. It's just me playing the stock sound and literally doing nothing else. Nature meditations could be good. Let's try Sea of Dreaming Dolphins. I love that title. That's just beautiful. I mean, for some underscore would be amazing. Even under, like I'm not big on splashes and things in my new age work, but a lot of people are. A lot of people write their pieces around that. So that's a beautiful sound for doing that kind of thing. Now, of course, I've got to hear the whales because I just heard the dolphins. Okay, so since I said that, I'll change some of the parameters here. So we've got sea waves, and we've got underwater, which is all the way down. Oh, look, the water's gone. So just like that, that takes care of that problem. That gives me full control over how I want that sound to work in my composition, and that is so important with any kind of music that you're writing. But I find that in particular, because everything is so based on the warmth or coldness of a sound when it comes to this kind of music, it's really just beautiful to have that kind of versatility over what you're doing. Spirits of Light is one of my favorite sounds on here. I can't remember which number off the top of my head, but I know I've used quite a bit of that in my compositions. Lovely, beautiful long decay on that too. Absolutely gorgeous. God, I love this library so much. And I've told Eduardo, I said I'll never be able to thank you enough for what this library gives me. It's just amazing. Let's just check out a couple more here. We've got Mantra. Yeah, those are just amazing. Absolutely amazing. Let's see. I don't think we've tried Illumination yet. Let's give Illumination a whirl. And again, for most of these, I'm just picking the first one on the list. It's not anything I really sat down and planned out which ones I was going to show you. Just kind of whatever strikes me in the moment, which is it's just kind of how I do everything. I could write songs off of any one of these, honestly. I mean, they're just so beautiful, so rich, and they just give you so much to work with. And that, I mean, that's everything for a library. I don't know how many libraries you guys have bought that are like, yeah, I like that sound, but it just wasn't processed in a way I can do anything with it. Or, God, on every one of these, I have to fix the release because they all just stop. There's no decay, nothing that's alive about the sound whatsoever. If you're writing, 8-bit music, that's fine. But for most of the stuff that people are going to write, you need to have the sound feel alive and organic and something that like it's breathing. And you just don't get that if your release is just a 90-degree angle to nothing. So that's a little more mysterious, right? Something else to kind of create a little bit of a different mood, because not everything in new age music has to be happy or light or bouncy. You can have some darkness in there, and it's just fine. I like the unknown. That just kind of immediately just gives you that feeling that it's going to be something that might be less comfortable, which is okay. It's a good mix for a library like this. Gives you something to add. If you're doing a whole album, especially based on this, like I did, my first entranced album was based on the library Vapor, which came out many years ago and is impossible to find now. But at the time, I mean, for me, it was like this library, but like 20 years ago or 15 or whatever it's been. And so I based the whole album around it. So this library is something that you can do that with. There's so many different directions you can go, and you're going to want to have a song that may have an element of mystery or darkness to it on an album. And, you've got everything you need right here in this library. Yeah, we can go dark if we need to, that's for sure. But yeah, just another set of beautiful sounds. There's so much in there to play with. I'm not going to get into everything, obviously, but even just looking at the main list of sounds in the meditation pads, you've got so much to work with, and then within those, many more to work with on top of all the controls that you have to change things up. Panning can make a complete difference in a sound. Obviously the balance of the different samples that you've got in a sound is going to make a difference. But every little thing that you do to control the sound shapes how it's going to affect not only the performance, but just the way it blends in with all the other songs. And anything that I've tried to work with in this library, any two sounds even, no matter the difference, I found that they work together. And that to me is just magical. I mean, yeah, you can say that a C and an E should always harmonize no matter what the sound. But you know what? Sometimes, especially with pad sounds and ethereal sounds, they really don't. But everything that I've played with, every combination that I've tried so far working with Nada, everything has been 100% workable for me. Sometimes not for my clients, and I have to go in and tweak some things to make them happy. But I can honestly say I've not found any combination of things that just sounded yucky. It just blends so well because they're sampled in a similar fashion where you have that long decay, you've got that certain level of reverb. The reverb is consistent from song to song, or from sound to sound. So it really helps to be able to make a library where I can make anything work with anything. So it again keeps this really not limited at all for me as a composer. And what more could you ask for, honestly, in a library? This is for this kind of music, it's everything you could want. And I'm also going to go out a little bit further on a limb and say, not just for this kind of music, but let's say that you were doing a horror soundtrack or a classical soundtrack and wanted a little bit of thickness in your score. These sounds honestly would blend so well with that. I've played with them blending with an orchestra, and they sound really good with what I've worked with. And since it wasn't an Eduardo orchestra, you've got different levels of reverb, different styles of sampling, and that. But I can say that everything that I tried worked really well, especially in this category with the meditation pads. They work really well with strings and woodwinds and brass. If you're using brass that isn't too harsh. But again, depending on what you're going for, that could absolutely work. So again, I would say, don't think of this library as just something to write new age or ambient music with. Think about where it might be used to thicken up the sound of something else, or just add that special flavor that you're missing in your composition. I just think that there's an endless amount of possibilities of things that you could do with this library, and that's one of the reasons I love it so much. So I'm going to wrap up here for meditation pads. You've got plenty to explore. I don't want to give them all to you because then you'll just have everything and it won't be as exciting to play around with yourself. But try doing some multi-tracking, pick out 3 or 4 different sounds and try and lay down something and see how you feel that they all blend together, and make some adjustments and see how that blends together. It's just so easy to use and so functional. And when I've got deadlines, I get deadlines. Like a lot of my deadlines are really tight, like 3 or 4 hours for me to turn around a piece. So for me to be able to have access to a tool that allows me to just blend things very quickly and easily, or use something to thicken up whatever else I'm working on. It's magic for me. It's everything as a composer. It's a time saver. It helps me not worry, oh my God, I've got to go through sounds and find something that works, because there's probably going to be something or some things in this library that would work with just about every situation I could think of. And I've tested quite a bit. So I can say, from that experience, I could say that's very accurate. It will be of great help. So that is the meditation pads portion of this trilogy of videos. I will be back in the next video with voices.